Hello, my name is Sam Feltham and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. For you today, I have someone that was introduced to me via Emily McGuire, or low-carb Genesis, as you might have heard her being called. On her round-the-world trip, she stayed, I think she stayed with you. I'll get to you in a second here, Jess. But this woman has had a bit of an incredible journey with her family, and she's in an interesting position as to where she is in her education and life as well, which makes me very optimistic about the future. All the way from Montreal, it's Jess Paige. How's it going, Jess?
Great. Thank you for having me, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a sunny day here in London. It's been sunny for the past week, so it's fantastic. How's the weather over in Canada?
The weather it's a little bit chilly. It's 15 degrees Celsius, but very sunny. So yeah. I'm optimistic.
yeah, it's not so bad. It could be worse. It could
Definitely.
be a lot worse. And unfortunately, it will get a little bit colder than that in Montreal, I suspect. But anyway, enough about the weather. We talk too much about the weather on this program, I think. The reason that I wanted to get you on today was because Emily McGuire suggested that I should take a look at your blog, which is Jess Paige, and that's Paige, LCHF.wordpress.com. And it's a fantastically simple website with LCHF 101 right there on the front page, everything that you need to do when it comes to LCHF, and explains it probably in about 500 words or something like that, which is exactly what I like to see. Straight to the point, exactly what you need to do. And then you've kind of got some workout stuff on there as well, loads of recipes and all that jazz. So everybody should go check out your blog for sure. But your kind of indoctrination into LCHF was kind of through, the side door a little bit, wasn't it? Because your father had some heart problems, and then that kind of led you onto LCHF. So for all the listeners and viewers out there, explain to us how you got into the crazy world of LCHF.
Perfect. So as you said, Sam, a couple years ago, I would say it's now 3 years, my father was diagnosed with an enlarged heart because he was very, very obese. And so his cardiologist basically said to him, look, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to require a pacemaker before the age of like 60. It was really just a shocker. My whole family was surprised. Everyone was just, taken aback. But he did suggest low carb as an alternative just for like weight loss. So he really, at the beginning, it was very simple, no sugars, no starches. That's how we started. So my family and I decided we're going to support him, because how do you do low carb if there are like Oreos and ice cream and all this like junk food in the house, right? So we all decided to go low carb for a little bit. It was like a little trial period. And all of a sudden, his weight just like, it was melting off, literally just coming right off him. All the blood work was coming back perfect. And my mom and I also saw some amazing results too, because I'm prone to some autoimmune issues. And seeing that too, that healing aspect and everything was really intriguing. So we decided to look into that a little bit more, and we went towards the keto side. So we started incorporating more fat. We started incorporating even less carbs, and that's how we got here. My whole family, not my whole family, but most of my family, I would say about 90% of it is now low carb officially.
Incredible. So, and it's had a bit of a ripple effect through your extended family as well, which is rather interesting.
So now my cousins too, my aunts and uncles, have also seen it's really quite a change, because my dad has lost over 100 pounds. Like it's quite a change. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. He's at like 7% body fat now, and he's like 60 or almost 60.
That's fantastic. So what does this cardiologist say to that?
He's really impressed. He's really impressed.
and for taking my advice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. And a round of applause for that cardiologist. That's fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah, I would.
Go on,
Sorry.
go on, Jess.
I was just gonna say, it would be really nice if there were more doctors out there like that that are promoting low carb, you know, because it's still not very accepted, at least in Canada. So there are a couple here and there, but it's not, you don't hear that very often, go low carb. And
no, not at all. And it seems kind of interesting to me, actually, that out of all the specialties in medicine, cardiology is the one that you see the most LCHF kind of enthusiasts come from. I mean, you got William Davis as a cardiologist, Dr. Atkins, the original, was a cardiologist, Dr. Asima Hotra is a cardiologist over here, and you got, it just seems that they kind of get it, I guess. I don't know if that's because they're kind of slightly like more on the fringe and kind of almost maybe more independent than kind of the mainstream medical community. I don't know, but anyway. For you yourself, you're actually involved with medicine because you just graduated in a degree in food science and nutrition, and then you're going to be going on to becoming a medical doctor. So tell us about kind of, you know, that degree and your thoughts now on nutrition and kind of where education is going to be taking you in the future.
Well, I began my nutrition degree because in Montreal, at least at McGill, the medical degree program only has 45 minutes of nutrition training in their whole medical degree.
45 minutes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fail. That's a big fat F right there.
Exactly. And that's also a massive school. Like McGill is world renowned. So to have that, it's kind of ironic to me because nutrition is the basis of, you know, most of our issues today, especially, you know, with over sugar consumption, diabetes on the rise, obesity. There's like a correlation between the two. So I figured I would go into that and get a better understanding. And what's interesting is that in a lot of my nutrition courses, my professors actually recognize the benefits of a ketogenic diet. They blatantly said, excellent for weight loss and for seizures. That was pretty much it. But they said that the drawbacks are that it's boring. They said bacon and eggs, I guess, on the regular is boring, which, I mean, I put my hand up to that because I just couldn't sit there and listen to that. And I was like, I've been LCHF for a year. By that point, I was LCHF for a year, and I was like, I can attest that it's not boring.
Full of it, mate. Absolutely full of it.
But it's nice to see that there's definitely more of an acceptance of it in the nutrition world now. They are recognizing it. At least some of my professors were doing so, because a lot of people are still very much against fat. That fear of fat has really been ingrained in us. Now what I want to do is now I'm in exercise science. So now I'm learning the complementary side of, you know, like working out and living an active lifestyle. And from there, I want to go into medicine, probably somewhere in Canada, so like at McGill or something like that, and just kind of be able to promote the LCHF way as a treatment, because I think it could do wonders. You know, so many obese people, and we have all this knowledge at our fingertips that is not being spread to the masses, or if it is, it's not being accepted. There are a whole bunch of now films on this, like that sugar film, sugar coated, all of those, which is fantastic. But it's really like the beginning, you know. If we had more, it would be fantastic.
Absolutely. And that's kind of part of my mission as well, is trying to, I think, just get it just accepted by the mainstream, so that then, you know, dietetics associations don't have kind of warnings on their websites about low carb diets, and that, you know, they're the devil, you know, and it's totally bizarre to me. And so for you, do you think you're going to be going into any specialty, or are you going to be a general practitioner, or?
Currently I'm thinking about actually going into cardiology.
There you go.
Yes, I'm like going into that. But I've been told that when you do rounds and all of that stuff, you get attracted to different things. So that's definitely open to change.
You got to go with the flow on that sort of thing for
Yeah.
sure. And kind of talking about cardiology and things like that, you've been doing some blood work as well. So what kind of benefits have you been seeing in your blood work?
My blood work has been phenomenal, to the point of my doctor is surprised when I tell her what I had for breakfast. Bacon.
For bacon. Let's just stop using the word breakfast and just call it bacon.
I like that. Yeah, it was actually really funny. We got the lab results back. My HDL was much higher. My LDL was much lower. Triglycerides are basically non-existent. My sugar is fantastic. And she was there like, wow, you must be eating such a low-fat diet. And I was like, actually, I've had 3 pieces of bacon this morning, 2 fried eggs topped with butter, with some halloumi fried on the side. And she was like, what?
Afraid so. Those are the cold hard facts, I'm afraid.
Exactly.
And so when you kind of present that, are you backing it up with kind of any science, so that they kind of put it in perspective? Or
I've kind of tried to explain it to her. This is my general practitioner. She's aware of the low carb aspect, but I think the fat side still really worries her, because she's actually the GP for my mother and myself. So she's seen both of us. She knows that both of us have phenomenal bloods. But she is worried about the whole cholesterol thing, because total cholesterol can sometimes be higher on a ketogenic diet. And she doesn't seem to comprehend, or at least not yet, she hasn't done enough research in that field of how cholesterol isn't that bad for you. You do require it. Your body does make it. And that dietary cholesterol is not directly associated with, cholesterol in your blood. So she's she's definitely gotten into, pro low carb, all of that stuff, but not LCHF, not yet.
not just she just needs to get the HF part for sure. And so for all the folks out there, what exactly is going on? Because people, sure, are getting the message about low sugar, but exchanging that into low sugar and kind of total carbohydrates, and then going on the other end of going from low fat this and everything to high fat. Why is it you can eat high fat diets and our hearts not explode?
I like that. Well, the skinny on LCHF, basically, if I can put it that way, is that a lot of, from a food scientist point of view, I can tell you that when we're creating these low-fat products in the lab, they taste like cardboard. I'm just going to put it flat out there. They taste like cardboard when you remove the fat, because that gives it that nice mouthfeel, the viscosity, that texture, and that taste that we really love. So what we have to do, unfortunately, is we have to add loads and loads and loads of sugar and different complex carbohydrates to kind of give it that viscosity. And the issue now is that these carbohydrates are so pro-inflammatory in our bodies, and they don't know what to do with it. And it's just overloading the liver and the pancreas, that we're getting tons of liver disease, like fatty liver. We're getting diabetes, all kinds of stuff like that. So when you eat sugar, you get that insulin spike. Your sugar in your blood usually is about a teaspoon, I believe. So like 4 grams. It's very stable, doesn't really move, other than the carb eaters, because I'm sure you know that friend that always has to be snacking like every 2 hours, and it's because they're on that sugar roller coaster. And that what happens is your body kind of goes crazy when the sugar is in your blood. There's an insulin spike and it will overshoot, which will cause you to be hungry later. And all of this insulin is basically saying, store me in your cells if you're not going to burn it right away. So it gets converted into fat, unfortunately. Whereas when you consume fat, I mean, how can fat be bad for you if your brain is almost all composed of fat? You know what I mean? Like, I never understood that. Our whole brain is fat, pretty much. And yeah, we're told not to eat fat. Like, the brain needs fat. We need to be running on ketones, and it's just it's frustrating.
But it is. It's really frustrating and bizarre as well.
Yeah.
But so basically, the insulin spikes are making us store more body fat. And so how does that translate in terms of heart disease risk and things like that?
One of the big things is there are those people that are thin on the outside, but they are fat inside. They're called toffees. So that friend that eats junk food all the time, and you think that they're still thin, they must have a high metabolism, are usually actually storing their fat internally. And this is going around the organs and everything, which can cause serious problems because your organs are not used to all this fat around them. And this can cause issues with having, you know, like when your heart beats, there's the fat all around it. Also, fat can get dislodged and can go into the bloodstream and cause embolisms, a fatty embolism, stuff like that. So it's really just, you have to watch, especially with the carbohydrates, because they can cause all kinds of diseases like diabetes, obesity, PCOS is also linked to that, all kinds of stuff like this, these metabolic syndromes that are on the rise now, unfortunately, because of our increasing sugar and carbohydrate consumption. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so bizarre. Like when you do speak to people about this, and they kind of look at you like you're a Holocaust denier or something, you know. Yeah, you just explaining it like that is just it's hasn't got any flaws, basically. So kind of where do you see this all going? Because, you know, the science is really there. And what do you think it's going to take to turn the table, so to speak?
That's hard because I know there are a lot of us out there kind of promoting the message now, but there are still a lot of naysayers. Like, for instance, a couple of days ago, I tweeted something about how fructose is like the main culprit. And this RD retweeted me and was like, stop blaming it on on these little tiny nutrients, like it's the whole picture. And it's more, I think what will happen, and what is a really good thing that's going on now, is the paleo movement is kind of like a beginner to low carb. So just the idea of eating, you know, like whole food stuff you can pick, you can shoot, you can fish yourself, that seems to be very intuitive to people. And that's kind of working. And hopefully from there, you know, like baby steps, we can kind of push it to low carb, and then from low carb to keto, because there are a lot of doctors out there that don't really understand nutrition as well as they should, just because it's lacking in their education. And there are others that understand nutrition phenomenally because they've done the research, like Dr. Westman, for instance. He's fantastic, wonderful man in the low carb community. Whereas you have people like my GP, for instance, that don't really understand the chemistry behind it and are just, they're constantly being told since we're young, fat is bad, low fat, you know, it's everywhere. And now there are lobbyists now too for sugar, you know, because it's such a large industry. We're producing so much of it. It's just, you know, it would cut so many jobs. And I think that's also an issue. But the real thing is that we need to be making the choices in our grocery stores, because what we ask for is what the food industry is going to give us. They just want to make money at the end of the day. If you make the right choices and you promote that, like in that area at least, it'll definitely be helpful. I'm hoping it's going to come around soon, but I know at least that in Canada we subsidize crops like corn and soy, which, you know, why wouldn't you want to grow stuff if you're getting more money for it, you know?
That's it. That's the problem. That's the catch-22 that we're in, unfortunately. But kind of having, you know, medical students like yourself coming through. I mean, in your fellow students, are there any kind of other low-carb advocates? And was it actually part of your course, or did your professors just kind of acknowledge it as well?
The low carb thing was not part of our course at all.
Really?
It was very just like a side note, you know, like we were going through the...
Oh, by the way, there's like loads of randomized controlled trials showing that low carb's really good. but we'll skip over that, you know.
Exactly. That's pretty much how it happened. We were going through weight loss ways and like different diets that they can go on. We spent a lot of time on the low-fat diet, and then we kind of we went on, and she was like, well, you know, there's this thing called the ketogenic diet. It's been proven to work. A little bit boring, you know, that's why it's not used very much, but it's great in epilepsy. End of story kind of thing.
That's it. That's all you get.
That's it. That was really it. It was really sad because that's something I would have liked to have learned a little bit more on. But anyways,
yeah. So now you've had to do self-education, and this is kind of the problem. And people always ask me, why don't I kind of go out and get, say, like a nutrition degree, or, you know, a doctorate or something like that. And the issue is that I'll have to compromise to get that degree. Like, just listen to these kind of, you know, talking heads at the front of a lecture theatre talking about all this stuff, and I'll say it kind of, you know, out of the lecture theatre to them that, you know, there's some other interesting stuff going on, and I'll have to write all of this in exams and things. And that's just, it's false education. So it's kind of like, for me, it's almost like a false qualification, which is really terrible, because we need degrees to show that people are properly qualified and things. But if the education isn't up to par at the moment, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I agree completely, especially because, you know, you have so much knowledge in this field because you've been doing it for so long. But whereas these people, we trust the people that have these initials behind their name, but at the end of the day, they aren't really being taught this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a catch-22, as you were saying, because they don't really know. But to answer your question, there are a couple low carbers, but it's very rare to come across. I've come across maybe 2 out of a group of 200.
Really?
Myself, yeah.
Gosh, and so they're getting this information that, you know, low fat and calorie counting is still the best way to go, essentially. And kind of this is like the individualized, you know, way that you should advise people, because you get that a lot from dietitians that, things need to be individualized. And then you ask, when was the last time that you advised a low carb diet? And, you know, they've never advised one. They've only ever advised low fat calorie counting. It's kind of like on the Kellogg's website with the Special K personal plan, and it's always Special K and orange juice for breakfast. Like, that's the personal plan. You know? That's not a personal plan. That's just selling more Special K. Yeah. So kind of what do you get into conversations with any of your fellow students about this, and then kind of, you know, were there any like serious arguments and debates? Or
they're very much calorie in, calorie out. It's actually funny that you were talking about that before, because I remember walking to the library once and I saw one of my friends who's a dietetic student. Well, she was a dietetic student at the time. And I remember seeing her eat this massive poutine. Like, I don't know if you guys have this stuff over there, but it's really popular here. Very Canadian, specific to Quebec. It's basically, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's potatoes that have been fried, so fries, with gravy on it and cheese curds. That's what she was eating. A massive one, like, I kid you not. It must have been like family size.
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and I'm sure she knew I was judging what she was consuming. And she just looked at me and she's like, don't worry. This is all I'm going to eat for the day. So, like, calories are fine. But she doesn't seem to understand that the real issue here is the quality of the calorie and not so much, you know, how much she was eating. So,
yeah, it's really kind of sad that isn't even kind of something that's really taught. It's literally just, you know, when it goes away, there's just calories, that's it, and not the quality as well. And kind of this is why we're in this situation a little bit, because the focus has been on quantity. And if the focus is just quantity, then it literally doesn't matter what you eat. You can eat as many Oreos as you have, as long as it's 500 calories underneath your calorie maintenance. Then it's absolutely fine. Yeah, you know, as you were talking about earlier, you'll become a toffee essentially, you know, you're going to get so much visceral fat around you, you are going to die of a heart attack and then develop metabolic syndrome and even type 2 diabetes and things like that. So yeah, the focus really does need to be onto quality, but it doesn't seem to be there yet, which seems bizarre, which is why we need people like you, Jess.
Oh, thank you. And you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But the medical people don't listen to me because I don't have those specific suffixes. You know, I need those initials. So if we've got people like yourself, who have, you know, done the hard graft and things and seen the light, and then, you know, you can like get in there from the inside.
I hope so. I'm gonna be the mole on the inside, convert them all to low carb.
That's right, fantastic. Cool. Well, that's unfortunately all we have time for today, but I highly recommend everybody going to go across to Jess's blog and website. That's Jess Paige, Paige, LCHF.wordpress.com, and I believe you're on Twitter and Facebook.
That's correct, and Instagram
as well.
I'm on
and
there
Instagram, you're on Instagram as well. So if you're an Instaface person, then, you know, get on there.
Perfect.
I just call it Instaface. Anyway, but yeah. So thank you so much for your time today. Did you have any other wise words for all the listeners out there?
Well, I would say if you're just starting low carb, just stick to the basics. You know, bacon, eggs. How could you get bored of that stuff? Like, it's just a timeless classic. Have a steak with some butter on top, a little bit of, you know, like spinach on the side. It's perfect. So just, you know, start off slow. Of course, you're going to fall off the wagon. It happens to all of us. So don't stress about it. Just get back on, fresh new day, and go from there. And listen to these podcasts and videos because they're great.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jess. Much appreciated. And that only leaves us one more thing to do before you go, and that's to hear a smash it out from Jess Paige all the way in Montreal. So on the count of 3, always shout smash it out to the camera. So 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out.
Hooray! That's what I'm talking about. Excellent. Everybody go check out Jess's blog. And then otherwise, Jess, I'll speak to you very soon.
Sounds lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jess. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.